Every day, the left denounced the president as a threat to democracy and free expression. You hear it constantly. But at the same time, the left is coming closer and closer to taking total control of the internet and blocking any speech it disagrees with. That is absolutely the plan. Tonight, we can exclusively report that last week, the Democratic Party chairman, Tom Perez, met with a Council on Technology and Society. This council included the CEO of the tech company TaskRabbit, among others. According to a summary of the meeting that we received, the group bluntly asked Tom Perez, again, the head of the Democratic Party, what they could do to, quote, contribute to the broad social good. When you ask that question to the head of the Democratic Party, what are you asking? How can we elect Democrats? Which is what they're trying to do. Meanwhile, in a not unrelated story, a coalition of major companies, including Verizon, NBC, Facebook, and Google, the biggest companies, has announced a new Global Alliance for Responsible Media. Remember that, Global Alliance for Responsible Media. Now, the stated goal is to pressure tech platforms to, quote, develop and deliver against a concrete set of actions, protocols, and processes for protecting people and brands, blah, blah, blah. In other words, what they're really saying is censorship, and censorship on a vast scale. If they have their way, this will be the end of free speech online and the death, by the way, of mainstream conservatism. Any voice right of center will be tarred as hate speech, Russian trolls, or simply bad for business. That's their game plan. It's simply a question of whether anybody in power in Washington will do anything to prevent it from happening before it does. And by the way, you'd think the Trump campaign might be interested in this, because there's no chance the president will be reelected if supporters can't speak freely online, obviously. Blake Harris is author of The History of the Future, and he joins us tonight. Blake, thanks a lot for coming on. So this seems like an alignment of the people who control all speech online, and why shouldn't that terrify anyone who believes in free speech?
I wish I had an answer for you, but the answer is that it should. As you know from the last time I was on, I wrote this book, The History of the Future, and I set out to tell a story about this rags to riches VR story about this company, Oculus, founded by Palmer Luckey, sold to Facebook for $3 billion. And then my book took a left turn when Palmer ended up getting fired from the company for essentially being a Trump supporter. And I was like, you know, admitted to last time I was on the show, I'm a lifelong liberal, but this is not about left and right. This is about right and wrong, and it is alarming what is going on.
Well, it's horrifying, and because it is a concentration of more power in one place than we've seen in my lifetime, probably we've seen since the turn of the last century when Teddy Roosevelt helped break up the trusts, and yet nobody seems worried about it. Why is that?
I think, you know, at first I asked myself that same question every morning, and I think that what I came to believe is that most of these people, most of these left-leaning people and the heads of the tech company and the populate tech companies are just so certain in their correctness. And so they think that they are fighting the good fight and helping Facebook in their mission. And Facebook is really largely like an activist company more than anything else. And, you know, for example, one of the things that comes to mind is Andrew Bosworth. He's the head of consumer hardware at Facebook, one of the early employees. He was Mark's TA back at Harvard. And during the election season, he casually and frequently shared articles like there's no such thing as a good Trump supporter. And that's just wild to me. You know, the level of discrimination against conservatives, against anyone slightly to the right of the left, is astonishing. And, you know, when we deal with other groups that are marginalized, we all, you know, at least there's an effort to make things better. There's at least an acknowledgement that maybe there's implicit biases. But when it comes to conservatives, the answer you either get is a wink and a nod, or it's just, well, some views don't deserve to have a platform. And again, I don't agree with many of these views, but they absolutely deserve to have a platform.
Of course. Of course. And there should be look, I'm sure you're not going to vote for President Trump's reelection. But you know as well as I, he will not be reelected if his supporters can't speak freely, period. And I don't know if they understand that. I hope they're starting to figure it out. Blake, anyway, thank you for your reporting on this subject. It's been important.
Thanks, Tucker.
Appreciate it.